Getting this close to the end. This close. Almost there. It's time today to talk about the 2008 Royal Rumble. And ironically enough, this is a show that I liked quite a bit. And I remember watching this show live and really enjoying it. Going back and watching it yet again, I still enjoy it a lot yet again. There are a lot of things for me to like on this show. There really was. I was actually a little surprised how much I enjoyed it going back and watching it. It looks like we've got an intruder. Are you going to be in the whole video and get all the attention on you? Huh? Yeah. Sorry, everyone. We got our first little snowfall for summer, and yeah, it's Virginia. It's only like 2 inches, but everybody's freaking out, just like your mommy is. But she's freaking out, so I have to sit there and make sure that she's calmed down and she's all right. But won't stop us from talking about the 2008 Royal Rumble in the opening match. Again, another one of those examples of a good opening match. It seems like throughout the years, a lot of the Royal Rumble pay-per-views had good opening matches, and this definitely was one. Ric Flair versus MVP, and the stipulation, of course, being what, Summer? That's right. If Ric Flair lost, he had to retire. And I always loved this storyline and this angle for Ric Flair that the next time you lose, your career is over. Oh, yuck. Got me right in the nostril. How nasty. But I always liked that because what they did in their own way was kind of build up Ric Flair and get him hot and get him going on a winning streak, building him up towards WrestleMania, which is where all of us ultimately believed that his career was going to come to an end. And while all that is true, and that's exactly how it played out, man, it made for a good journey along the way. It made for a really good match and story between Ric Flair and MVP. And you got to imagine for somebody like MVP, it's had to be a hell of an honor and a hell of a lot of fun to be in a short-term feud, in a short-term program, and in a match with the Nature Boy Ric Flair at a Big Four pay-per-view. I can imagine MVP looks back on it with some fond memories, as he should. It was a really good match in terms of the story that it told. It really got you emotional in the fact that you didn't want Flair's career to end just yet. It was that one last great run, and I loved it. The next match, a feud that was very physical and very violent at times. John Bradshaw, Layfield, and Chris Jericho. Just a regular old singles match. Like I said, I really enjoyed this feud. Physical match, type of stuff I would have expected. It wasn't as dumb to me as JBL and Shawn Michaels later on in 2008 into the early portion of 2009. But, this this was a lot better, I guess I'll say that. What? Would you make up your mind? Are you going to sit or not? Sit or not. You make up your mind. Just like Smokey and Precious used to be, always wanting the camera spotlight directly shining on top of them. But again, an okay match. Not as good of a story to me as the opening match. Not as good of a match, in my opinion, as the opening match, in part because of the story. But definitely wasn't a bad thing. Was it? Some of you might disagree with me, I'm sure. But middle of the card, you had the World Heavyweight Championship match. Edge versus Rey Mysterio. Oh, my goodness. And again, a really good match. I really liked this match between Edge and Rey. And the fact their feud continued after this, I enjoyed it even more. This was at a time where they were building up Edge ultimately to get ready for his WrestleMania opponent, which is not just any regular standard old WrestleMania opponent. But we were 3 for 3 on this show, even though I'm sure some of you are going to disagree about JBL and Chris Jericho, I suppose. You're going to sit there and say, oh, this was kind of awkward and this was bad. And maybe you're right, but I didn't have a problem with it. Sometimes I like awkward and bad. All right, so then we get to a match that aggravated me just a little bit because this is at a time then when Randy Orton was really, really, really aggravating me. And this was still as a heel, though. Randy Orton versus Jeff Hardy for the WWE Championship. And you remember this was Jeff Hardy jumping off the top of the steps or whatever on top of Orton. They were doing all types of crazy shit with Orton and Hardy at this point in time. And I really thought they were actually, for whatever damn reason, fooling myself. I actually thought they were going to go with Jeff Hardy here. I really thought they were. I thought it was the right time to do it, too. Of course, the WWE ultimately disagreed with me. And when it came time for the main event, I was reminded very much who really ran the show in WWE and what the WWE really thought was good for business as opposed to maybe sometimes what the fans thought was good for business. But good match here. Orton wins, skip-de-skip, whoop-de-woo. Well, now we'll go to the main event, the 30-man over-the-top rope battle royale Royal Rumble match. And when it comes to the Royal Rumble, I almost get that sense that maybe this event should be held every year in MSG. There's just something special about the Garden for sure. And this show, this Rumble match, came across really, really well. In part, I think, because it was at Madison Square Garden. I also love the little story here of last year in the 2007 Rumble. The last two participants were Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. Well, this year they entered 1 and 2. That's some good story there. The last two guys are the first two guys this time around. You have Batista go a long way in this. One thing that I really liked was that this was the Rumble to me where the WWE really started to realize that having a couple of surprise returns and surprise entrants every year could really add to the mystique and the aura and the appeal of the Royal Rumble. And when you're a little more than halfway through the show, and out comes Snuka, halfway through the match, and out comes Snuka, and out comes Piper. And then they have that one big stare down moment. Those are those powerful things, those moments that, obviously Snuka's washed up and done at that point. Piper's washed up and done at that point physically, both of them. But it still meant something. You know what I mean? It's not every day you get those moments. And you could sense even a little bit. The crowd was realizing what was going on, what was happening when Piper and Snuka came face to face. That was awesome. It really was. Of course, the most awesome thing of all was what happened at number 30. You've got Triple H coming in, and I was assuming at that point in time, heading into this Rumble, I did think Triple H or Batista was going to win the Rumble and face off with Randy Orton at WrestleMania. That's what I thought. Oh, foolish, foolish me. The WWE had other plans, and they did create a big-time memorable Royal Rumble moment by having John Cena come out number 30. And the crowd went nuts. And this is Madison Square Garden. They were happy to see him back after being gone for a little bit. Of course, as soon as he started going on the offense, they would immediately be back to booing his ass. And you can't blame him, can you? No. Even back in 2008, he was already dividing the audiences, showing you just exactly what a top babyface, top hero should not be doing to the crowd, to the audience. But it did create... I always loved it. I was like, this is the epitome, the pinnacle of Breakfast Club awesomeness. When Cena sits there, gets in there, Triple H looks at him. It's like they're the only two fuckers that matter. Everybody else is garbage. And then when it's down to the final two, of course it was Cena and Triple H. Triple H is like, oh, Cena's going to win. I got to be the last one because that makes me look better, damn it. And we've got to set up big things for WrestleMania 24, brother. Oh, God. It's funny. You had a Breakfast Club WWE Championship match at WrestleMania 24 between Orton, Cena, and Triple H, and nobody fucking remembers and nobody fucking cares. That's how hilarious this whole thing was. Of course, Cena goes on to win the Rumble, and it was the right thing to do. It was right at that time. He had the big dramatic return. He comes back number 30. Randy Orton's got the belt, so we're going to go right back into that business. Oh, God. And then, of course, afterwards, he wins the Rumble. And then he can't wait until WrestleMania 24 summer. He wants to face Orton in No Way Out, and a bunch of bullshit. But I cannot deny that going back and watching this show again, I really did enjoy the 2008 Royal Rumble. And it was actually really, really good. It's one of those Rumbles I'd actually recommend you going back and watching again if you haven't done so in a while, even though a lot of you will sit there and say, why in the hell would you recommend me going back and watching something where John Cena won the Royal Rumble? Because I'm kind of sick and sadistic in that way. That's why. You want to say bye-bye, Summer? Bye-bye.